right now, we want to get to a local expert who's internationally renowned for his expertise in earthquakes. We're talking about seismologist and also former USGS Emerita and Stanford professor, Dr. Ross Stein. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Stein, really appreciate you joining us because we want to learn a lot more about this earthquake. And you get, I know, super excited about these earthquakes. So tell us what you find fascinating, interesting about this one.
Well, first of all, this is kind of a two-step process. The original information on which the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center issued its warning is very different than what we know just a few minutes later. Initially, it was a magnitude 6.6 earthquake, which is about a tenth of the size of a magnitude 7. And it was in the same location, but a very weird, very shallow earthquake that involved a lot of vertical motion of the seafloor, which tends to produce more tsunamis. And that was the basis for that warning that we all received. But subsequently, it turned out to be a larger earthquake, a magnitude 7, but a very typical garden variety event on this northern extension of the San Andreas Fault, which we call the Mendocino Fault Zone. In that respect, it doesn't move the seafloor up and down very much, and it would be very unlikely for this earthquake to produce a large tsunami.
Dr. Stein, I of course understand you don't have a crystal ball to rub right now, but I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about the aftershocks that we could expect to see in the hours and days to come. We certainly don't expect the aftershock to be larger than the initial earthquake, but what could we expect to see?
Well, first of all, it does happen that aftershocks are larger than the main shock. It happens about, 5% of the time. And when that happens, we do a kind of a little 5-card Monte with you, and we call the first earthquake a foreshock and the second earthquake a main shock. But we don't actually know anything. We just know that earthquakes beget earthquakes. So there is a possibility that something larger can occur. And this region is really the hatchery of large earthquakes in California. It's the most active seismic area in the entire state, just offshore Mendocino, and that's because the San Andreas hangs a left right at Cape Mendocino. There should be a blinking left turn signal there. And when it does so, there's kind of a crunch that goes on in the crust that produces lots of earthquakes. So first of all, larger earthquakes or additional earthquakes are possible here because we have a history of that. Second, it's a long way from the Bay Area, and only really large earthquakes produce tsunamis in any reliable sense. So I think the way we should think about this is a good kind of trial run for what would happen if we got, let's say, a magnitude 8 earthquake up there. Then the whole Northern California coast would really be in play, including the Bay Area, although because of the Golden Gate, the waves that would come through would be pointed more or less toward Emeryville. So it wouldn't be bay-wide. We would expect more action down there than anywhere else.
Okay, you're causing Julian a little concern here. And what you're saying is totally consistent with what we saw with the messaging, too. I think Emeryville, Alameda, Berkeley, yep. Oakland all sent out these urgently evacuate even. Messages. Right. Yeah, can you talk about how that might work if there was an 8.0 in terms of what we could see in the Bay itself?
Well, we had a dress rehearsal for this in 2011 when the magnitude 9 Tohoku earthquake launched a giant tsunami which traveled across the Pacific. It travels at more or less the same speed that an airline travels. So it took about 12 hours to reach the Bay Area. And there was significant damage in Santa Cruz Harbor. There was massive damage in Crescent City at northernmost California, and some modest damage with, 2-foot-high tsunamis in the Emeryville area. So that kind of tells us what to expect, because a magnitude 9, even though it's so far away, is able to launch a much larger tsunami than even a magnitude 8 at our northern end of the state. So we've been through this, and we know kind of what to expect, and it means get out of the way, get to higher ground, and recognize that this isn't going to be the kind of giant wave which takes out the Golden Gate, but something modest but still worthwhile to get off the beach.
Ooh, there it is. There's the
video.
There it
is in Santa Cruz.
Oh,
yes.
Just from 2 feet.
Yes, that's actually a really interesting image that you were able to throw up there so quickly. kudos to you, because you can see that even though this tsunami is only several feet high, it does a lot of damage. And so the message is, if you're off the beach, you're fine. And the boats, well, they're more or less designed for it.
Speaking of damage, we're thinking back to the most recent significant earthquake that we felt here in the Bay Area, Loma Prieta, in 1989. Dr. Stein, can you talk a little bit about some of the structural improvements that we've made to homes, bridges, infrastructure in the 35 years since Loma Prieta, so that we are prepared for a significant, a powerful earthquake to strike here in the Bay Area?
Well, it is night and day what has happened. The Cypress structure collapsed, and so the Embarcadero Freeway was removed. It was an eyesore. So there's one of the, if you like, weird silver lining benefits of that earthquake, as we now have a beautiful waterfront in San Francisco and a much safer transportation system. Don't ask me why it took 26 years, but we now have a new east span of the Bay Bridge, which is seismically strengthened. There's been resurfacing and recabling of the Golden Gate Bridge. PGE has spent well over $1 billion strengthening its power delivery systems. Caltrans has spent about the same amount strengthening freeways. So in that sense, the state and agencies have responded very, very strongly to making sure that we have a safer infrastructure. Now, I wish I could say that the same thing is true for individual homeowners, where I don't think we've done anywhere near as much. But yes, transportation and services and communication are all in better shape today than we were at the time of the Loma Prieta earthquake.
Indeed, and I was getting a little PTSD looking at the video from Loma Prieta. We saw the Cypress structure, right, that pancaked, as you mentioned, and the Bay Bridge partial collapse there. And it does make me feel good what you're saying about the improvements in our infrastructure. But where exactly do you think the improvements to homes around the Bay Area, where has that fallen short? What do we still need to do?
Well, so few people have seismically retrofitted their homes. It's relatively inexpensive. You know, it's the cost of a half bathroom, basically, to make your home that much more safe against earthquakes. That's something, in my judgment, anybody with a home that was built, let's say, before the 1990s, before the Northridge earthquake, should do and is affordable.
Do what?
You know, the number of people who, the percentage of people who take earthquake insurance is about 15%. That's awfully low when you think about the consequences, because for all of us Californians, if we're lucky enough to own a home, that's our principal asset. So our ability to be there for our loved ones and take care of everybody's needs means we need to live in homes that don't collapse around us. We could, as individuals, do so much more.
Professor, we've felt about 35 aftershocks so far. Drew has let us know the largest being a 5.0. We know that earthquakes can be very frightening, they can be very destructive, but they can also be teaching tools for us to better prepare for larger earthquakes in the years to come, because as we all know, the big one will eventually be here. What will you specifically be looking at, and what are you looking to learn as we dissect this 7.0 magnitude earthquake that was felt off of the Humboldt County coastline?
Well, aftershocks, most aftershocks occur on the fault that ruptured. And so that's probably a 30-mile long segment of what we call the Mendocino fracture zone, and that's expected. But sometimes aftershocks occur well off the fault, either to the south or to the north, and they could trigger some other event, because earthquakes occur in a kind of a chain reaction. So while a very typical earthquake sequence for a magnitude 7, the largest aftershock will be around 6, and then we'll have maybe 10 5s and 100 magnitude 4s. That's kind of the most likely scenario, but it could trigger something larger, because we have seen sequences of events off Mendocino. So what is the most worrisome possibility? That this would trigger a Cascadia, a southern Cascadia megathrust event, which is capable of a magnitude 8 or 9. Is that likely? No, but it's more likely today than it was yesterday as a result of this event. So we do want to monitor it. We do want to see that these off-fault aftershocks aren't progressing in one direction or another. This is why we have monitoring systems onshore and off, because we understand how important it is to give everybody the best kind of warnings we can.
Okay.